Welcome into the Inside Carolina live post-game show. We're sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt, JohnnyT-Shirt.com. I'm Tommy Ashley. That is Dewey Burke. Shout out to Dewey for joining us while he is on vacation with the family. But Dewey, something good to talk about today. Carolina 96-81 over Virginia Tech in a game really the Heels needed to get back on track, and they did so.
Had to have it, especially going into a bye week, to use a football term for you, Tommy. Need to get rested and fully healthy. But I thought the story for me, RJ is terrific, but I thought Harrison Ingram in the first half, his effort, intensity level, his nose for the ball. Obviously, you finished with 17 rebounds. You're being very active, and then in the second half, Armando, I thought he looked as good and as springy and athletic as he's looked all year. So I know he mentioned the leg injury the other night, but he looked to be moving much better than I think some games that he's had early in the season. So that to me was a story. 29 rebounds out of your two starting post guys, and if you look down the box, all five starters really shot a pretty good percentage. Obviously Cormac 4 for 11, but he made 4 out of 7 threes. You take that every night. So good production offensively. He scored 96 points. A lot went well. Certainly things to work on defensively, keeping them out of the lane, guarding the high ball screen. We have enough tape out there that teams understand how to score against us. And if you have a bigger guard that can get into the paint and score from the mid-range or get to the rim, we struggle with those guys. So things to work on defensively, but overall a good win heading into some much needed time off.
Yeah, and let's talk about that time off. You played a lot of basketball in your life, and the way the ACC schedule works out, I don't know if it affected you guys back then the way it was, but having this week off, how important is that for this team and knowing a lot of these guys and having some access to a lot of these guys to get this break? You think if you're rolling, you don't really want the break. But when you've had a little bit up and down for the last couple of weeks, you get a good win, and now you've got to break off ahead of the tournament season coming, Dewey. How important is it for them to get some rest, get their bodies in shape?
I think it's so well timed. Just again, not to make a football reference, but when your college team that you pull for, your NFL team has a weirdly placed bye week, maybe too early, doesn't feel like they need it or whatever the case. This team needs it. They need to get healthy and get a lot of treatment. They'll probably have 2, maybe even 3 days off, starting with tomorrow, I would imagine, and some lighter practices to get your legs feeling good. And hopefully they take advantage of it. No travel is also nice, that you don't have to get on a plane. And I think, well, that's maybe one of the things that's a little bit of an afterthought. You think about a game like Syracuse the other night, they probably got into bed at 4 a.m. And even at age 20, 21, it's not that easy, especially if you have class the next morning and are expected to be there. No travel, lighter practice schedule, a couple of days off. They'll still get in the gym and shoot and lift and that kind of thing, but they ought to feel really good and obviously be ready to go to Charlottesville, which is going to be a big time game, big time test. And I watched some of that game against Wake Forest. I've said it before. I can't figure out why you go to Virginia if you want to play to score first to 40, but that's how they play. And so we got to be ready for a grinder for sure next week.
Yeah, fun fact, Virginia shot 1 for 11 from the free throw line, and that one was with 6 seconds left to win that game 49-47. Just ugly, ugly basketball. I mean, they win, and you can't, but Carolina's going from a 96-81 game today, and a week from now, you're hoping for half that. But it'll be an interesting watch, an interesting week of preparation for that. Dewey, let's talk a little bit about Bacot. I asked Hubert last week about him being more aggressive and more sort of realizing this might be the end. And you talk a lot about finality. He's played 160 ball games. He's got, I think, the most they could play if they went to the ACC championship and played to the championship and Final Four is 14 games left, maybe. How much do players think about that?
Quite a bit. Quite a bit. Yeah. You think about your legacy and how many more times am I going to put this jersey on? And specifically, how many more times am I going to put this jersey on and run out of the Smith Center tunnel for sure? You look at the box. Mondo's been in double figure rebounds each of the last 5 games. He didn't get enough shot attempts against Miami, but you take that one out, and 3 out of 5, he's had at least 24. So he seems to be rounding into form, especially if you look at the 5 games before that, where he had a couple 5-point nights, a 9-point night. And so again, I don't know if it's health or something else, but generally with a senior, in this case, a 5th-year senior, the mental side shouldn't be a problem. They're there. They understand what it takes. And so if he physically was not feeling right a month ago, perhaps that's what we see in the statistics. And then these last 5 games has been more of the old Mondo that we were able to jump on his back and ride, obviously, all the way to a Final Four a couple of years ago. So hopefully he feels good and can continue to be a 25-12 threat, because they really didn't have any answer for him in the second half. He was drawing a ton of fouls. They kept rotating bigs on him. Didn't matter. Finishing with the left, jump hooks, off the glass, making free throws. He was dynamic. He was really, really good.
He was, and he got 16 shots, made 11 of them. Dewey, that's one thing that folks, and we sort of, maybe you mentioned it against Miami, we may hate on Bacot's performances at times, but if he doesn't get the ball, he can't throw it to himself. Just sort of speak to that aspect of it as far as the ability to get him the ball where he needed it today, especially. It felt like today.
And I thought, yeah, I'm sorry. There were times I thought they missed him a couple times, even more, right? I mean, 16 field goal attempts is about, he should be in that 12 to 15 range. And again, you look down the boxes, go all the way back to BC, 6 shots, Wake, 6 shots, Florida State, 4 shots, Georgia Tech, 8 shots. That's 4 straight games where he had a total of 24 attempts. That doesn't get it. And I'm sitting here watching the game with my father-in-law, and they throw it into Armando. He makes a basket, and I turn to him, I say, they just have to throw it in there. Even if it's not a shot, they have to throw it in there. They come down the next possession, they throw it in there. Virginia Tech doubles. He throws it to Cormac, and he rips a 3. The ball has to go in there. It just has to go in there, because defensively, your instinct is it draws your eyes. You're always going to look when the ball gets closer to the basket. And then if your assignment is to double, then you're getting them into a rotation scenario. This team does move the ball very well. And so that ball needs to go in there just for a post touch to occupy the eyes defensively, and then swing it around if he gets doubled. But we go through spells where we don't feed him enough. He also has gone through spells where he's not active enough. Tonight was not that night. He was very active, demanding the ball, and he was also running really well. If you go back and watch, they commented it on the first half. You remember the little floater Harrison Ingram had in the paint on the break? And Bonner was correct. Mondo sprinted and took 2 defenders with him to the rim that allowed Harrison to dribble up their backside and just shoot a little 6-footer. He's running better, moving better, demanding the ball better. We damn well better reward him if he's going to play like this. Throw the ball in there. It's very important.
Yeah, I mean, if your big runs, I'll never forget, I played with a guy in rec ball. He played at Kansas State and played overseas. When he would sprint the court, he'd always be yelling, going, see me run, see me run, see me run. You have to get him the ball. And Bacot, the beneficiary of that today. I mean, 16 shots. I'd like to look at the box scores and see if that's the most he's had this year.
It is. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, it is. No, unequivocal. First game, 10 for 16 against Radford. And then this game, 11 for 16. In between, the most he had was 14 in the second game. And then the ball hasn't gone to him enough. But again, I'm not here to say it's all because the guys aren't looking. He has not been as active every night as he was tonight. But again, and pull it up, Tommy, you see what I'm saying. Go back to starting with the Duke game, 25 and 10, 24 and 13. Then he goes 10 and 15 against Miami, but only gets 8 shots, not enough. 14 and 10 against Syracuse, but only gets 9 shots, not enough. Tonight, gets 16 shots, 25 and 12.
It's pretty simple math. Get Mondo the ball, especially when he is as active as he was today. Carolina wins 96-81. Another guy, you mentioned him earlier, Harrison Ingram in the first half. I mean, that's one guy that you don't really have to worry about the energy level for. you
No.
know, can we sort of, how does that benefit Armando to have a guy like that beside him? He's not clogging the paint like another true big would do, but they're fighting for rebounds. Bacot finally had to snatch one from him late, but just sort of speak to Ingram's part down there in the paint as well, Dewey.
All out effort. I've been on the record with you talking about for a five-star kid with the pedigree that he comes out of high school with, to be a scrappy fighter and play and be willing to do the dirty work is uncommon. But he is, look, say what you want about Cormac, but I've said this to you before. I think both of those guys, their effort is unquestioned. We all would love for Ryan to have shot the ball better. Harrison Ingram shoot 42% from three in conference. And I think he's got to be averaging close to 13 or 14 rebounds in the ACC. But it's effort. He just wills himself, and then when you have effort like that at 6'8" with long arms, boy, you can wreak havoc, and he does. I mean, he was all around the basketball the entire first half. Um, I've come to love having him on our team. I really have. I mean, he exemplifies the kind of effort that as fans you love to watch, right? You're never questioning his commitment to what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, and you look across the board in the paint. Washington had another good game. It's hit or miss with how many minutes Washington and Withers are going to get. They produced again tonight, 3 for 4 for Washington, 7 points. Withers another decent game in only 9 minutes. Hubert was asked about getting Withers more minutes on Friday, and he said basically, your opportunity is going to come. I can't tell you when. Just be ready. And Withers and Washington both ready. Trimble with 21 minutes today. Dewey, when you look at this team, um, and it was a great win today. I mean, I think Virginia Tech's a pretty good basketball team. They don't have much inside, but for North Carolina to sort of right the ship a little bit, that roller coaster is going on, and now you have this bye. Is there any concern with you watching them about the fatigue factor? I mean, now this week can cure some of that, but the fatigue factor, or sort of hitting the wall factor, or anything going on, or is it just a normal lull, if you want to call it that, leading into this game that most teams generally have in a long grind of a college season?
Yeah, I tend to think it's more of the latter. My concerns about overall how far this team can go. Um, I think they are tired. I think that's fair, but I think they're going to get their legs back this week. They've played, those guys have played heavy minutes. My concern with this team is I think overall they have a lower offensive ceiling than teams you would have thought of in the past where you'd say, well, we can make a run to the Final Four. I know they scored a ton of points tonight. I know they scored a ton of points when we beat Duke. But we go through stretches where our shot quality is not there. We don't get the ball into Mondo for post touches, and we go through lulls offensively, because I don't find us to be as explosive as other teams that appeared like they had a chance to go to the Final Four. And I don't know if that is a style difference or if that's a talent thing. I mean, somebody asked me the other day, how many guys on Carolina are NBA players? I don't know. Is it zero? Is it maybe Harrison? Uh, has RJ played his way into being a two-way guy? He's pretty small, shoots it great. I don't see Elliot Cadeau as an NBA player right now. And so my answer was it could be zero. And so with no NBA players, that would be a difference from, teams that have made runs in the past. So, we'll see. I think that is my concern is, I know defensively we struggle at times, but, we also play great defensively at times. So we'll see ultimately what becomes of the season. But yeah, I don't know that we have any pros. And most teams that take it all the way have pros, typically.
It's going to be something to watch. I mean, to your point, no, I don't think they have any surefire professional players on this team. Without question, I agree with you there. Um, but does it matter in college basketball right now if you play now with that? And this is something that we talked about, and I wanted to get your take because one of the things I watched in this game was in-game execution. And my belief was they struggled with in-game execution because they had nobody that can go get a bucket like a future pro would be able to do. So to your point, that would help late game stretches. Back when you played, back with Ty Lawson, and they showed Kobe White today. That was a guy that was going to get you a bucket if you needed one. That is my one concern for this team, Dewey. Is that valid to not have a guy? RJ obviously can hit shots, but if I'm guarding RJ, he's not shooting a three.
Mm.
Unless he's going to do it over me. Your take on that aspect of late game, late shot clock situations for this team, they almost have to be perfect execution wise, given what you mentioned about the pro athlete that they don't have. Is that fair?
I think it is, and I think particularly if you're playing a team with big athletic guards, that RJ, because he's not explosive in terms of his ability to get by you, right? He's crafty. He has a great knack for getting shots off at all three levels. But if you're getting guarded, like I think back to the UConn game, watching that live in person, and the couple kids, especially the one freshman that UConn has, big athletic physical guards, or Syracuse. I mean, they're big athletic physical guards make life a little bit more challenging. And, so you combine that with, as much as we sung Mondo's praises, that our post is generally a below the rim post player, right? He's not an explosive above the rim guy. Yes, those late shot clock situations are going to be challenging for us against defensive teams like that. We score as a committee, right? The ball has to move. We have to be intelligent. We have to move intelligently without the ball. We have to screen well. We've got to throw it into Armando when he's open. It's a lot more challenging for us to, as you say, get the ball with 6 seconds on the shot clock and expect to get a high quality shot. Our shot quality comes from how we play together. So, and that's my point about their offensive ceiling. That's where my concern lies. If we're nitpicking a little bit, this is the number whatever 7 team in the country. They said that the NCAA has them as the first number 2 seed. They've had a really good year. I think exceeded expectations for me, coming off of last year of how they've come together. They care for each other. They want to defend and work hard together. They're doing all those things. Ultimately, what remains to be seen is if the overall talent is it enough to get us, to that third weekend.
Yep, absolutely. It'll be something to watch. Carolina's got a quote unquote bye week, no ACC game this week, so the Tar Heels have a week to get ready for Virginia in Charlottesville. Shout out to Johnny T-Shirt and Congruity. Johnny T-Shirt with all your jersey needs. I know it's baseball season started, folks. They got the new baseball jerseys at Johnny T-Shirt. And, of course, always have the football and the basketball stuff you need. Also, congruityhr.com/Tar Heels for your free small business assessment. Another great sponsor of Inside Carolina. Dewey, any final words before I let you go? Carolina gets that 20th win. Doesn't mean as much as it used to, but one thing Hubert Davis absolutely said means a lot is getting an ACC regular season win. North Carolina gets one game closer to that. Dewey, your final thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, look, rest up, get healthy, figure out what's going well with Armando and stick to it and be ready to go up to Charlottesville. And it's not even that it's a hostile environment. It's not that. They'll be loud, sure. It's just the way they play is very challenging. They grind you. They bump you on every cut, every screen. They slow it down. They walk it up. They limit the possessions. And we like to play multiple possessions and run. And they're not going to allow you to do that. And so we get back into shot quality, right? Virginia prides itself on low shot quality for their opponents, and then boxing you out, rebounding, walking it up, and then screening you for 25 seconds. So it's a challenging style to play against. You must be disciplined and patient. So hopefully we can go up there and find a way to win.
Yep, Carolina will have that opportunity next Saturday. 96-81 victory over Virginia Tech today. Armando Bacot, huge game. Harrison Ingram, huge game. and everybody else did their job as well. The Heels get to 20 wins and still stay in first place in the ACC. That's Dewey Burke. I'm Tommy Ashley. It's been the Inside Carolina Postgame Podcast. Shout out to the 400 plus that joined us earlier. Shout out to the regulars in the chat. You guys are great. We'll see you soon. Thanks, Dewey.
Thank you.